There we go. Welcome, everybody. Joe Quills here with you. It is Wednesday night. Not usually a night I stream, but since it's Kentucky Derby week, we are here tonight. And um, when we came up with this idea of also eligible prime time, um, and trust me, everybody who has a horse racing show, horse racing podcast, horse racing this, horse racing that out there, I thought about if we were going to have two interviews, we were going to have two interviews. That was the original plan. And for those that are watching here for the first time, a little bit about me. I'm here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as you can tell, wearing my Philadelphia Phillies hat with the Blue Jays theme because, the Phillies were unofficially the Blue Jays for a couple years in the 40s, but that's a topic for the Joe Quill show uh, next week. So, but anyways, um, a lot of times what I want to do is when some shows and businesses and or whatever, when they zig, I want to zag. And I think with a show like this that I have planned for tonight, now the news section of it, because I'm going to give you updates for the Oaks and the Derby in terms of who's in, who's out. There were a couple of scratches today, so we'll get to that. Also, I thought I would get into like some of the quirks and everything with the Kentucky Derby, so that um, you're a little informed of some useless information, as I like to call it, because I am the king of useless information. I'm the type of person where you can take me to um, Quizzo or whatever you call that bar quiz game that you have in your part of the world. Um, and I will come up with some answers for you. And, and sometimes I'll come up with the answers and be like, where'd you get that from? Oh, just stuck in my head. Some of the useless information I have, um, but a lot of what and those that know me as well, they know that my first run through college, and it didn't end well on my first go around because I think that I didn't know the value of getting a college education, getting your degree as soon as possible. I mean, there's so much that I can tell you about that another time. But I'm always fascinated with numbers. I'm always fascinated with, trends and oddities and stuff like that. And we got some oddities here that I'm going to mention tonight here with the with the Kentucky Derby. Now, I will tell you this: when I was 3, 4, 5 years old, my grandfather. Now, first of all, he was teaching me how to figure out batting averages and stuff like that. I think I think ERAs were a little too complex for me, even at 3, 4, 5 years old. But I could tell you that so and so won 58% of their games, or Pete Rose was hitting 323 or something something goofy like that. So I can tell you how I got it. But but and the one thing is, my grandfather said to my mom, and maybe my dad was there too, I don't know, something along the lines of, he's either going to be a mathematician or he's going to be a bookie. Well, it turns out I'm more of a, I mean, I'm a little bit of a degenerate, but, I'm not that much of a degenerate. I mean, I can sit here for days. I can write articles for days and not wager. And I said this to a lot of people going on, and I said, I guarantee if I went to the track, I can sit there for 4 hours and not place a bet. Now, it's a little bit easier for me because I have this platform, I have the Q&A racing platform. I can post things on Q&A Sports Zone if I wanted to. All the stuff that I can do that could preoccupy or divert me away from racing or wagering, I should say. Now, there's always times where, I just don't have the money to wager, but I will say this. Sometimes we have some goofy trends here, and I'm also going to show you a little history here as well that'll come up in a second here, which we'll talk about. But first, I do want to let you know some updates on the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks. Because first, the Kentucky Oaks, let me go here, go here, go here. Bottle of Rouge was an early scratch. They drew that on Saturday. I believe she was scratched on Sunday. Well, we have a second scratch here. And there we go. So I'm just using the Twin Spires one only because I have videos I want to show you as well. So when you look here, and it's not that great of a view here. My Miss Mo, the 6, has been scratched, and according to the Daily Racing Form, Saffie Joseph scratched her from the race today. He said that the filly, most recently second in the Gulfstream Park Oaks, is not at a level she needs to be for the Oaks this week. This scratch will allow Nikon, which is the 16 in this race. She is now in. So, Whit Beckman has a horse in the Oaks on Friday. So, Nikon is a 50-1 long shot, currently 73-1, because they actually started taking live wagers yesterday on the Kentucky Oaks and Kentucky Derby. So, but we have 2 more days on this race, which is going to be in prime time for the first time, which will be very interesting. And also, and I think, let me just see one thing here, because believe it or not, I have Churchill Downs as a weather site on here, because when I was putting my weather sites together, Churchill Downs was still, you were still able to pull that up. So I think if you search Churchill Downs now, you'll just get Louisville. But the sun sets today in Louisville at 8:32. So you're in that dusk time, but you are going to be under the lights here. So it's 8:40 p.m. the post time here. So the 15 and 16, Lovely Gray, which is David Portnoy's horse, he draws in. She is 7-1 right now, but right now, and there isn't that much money in the pool, and truthfully, right now, in my opinion, I don't worry about the odds until the day of the race. And since I'm looking at Twin Spires, which is an entity of Churchill Downs Incorporated, they're going to show these odds. So Explorer 9-1 for Bob Baffer, Flavian Pratt riding, Zany 6-1 for Todd Pletcher, Irad Ortiz aboard. Mark Cassie's Search Party is 41-1. Christian Torres rides. Cassie also has Counting Stars. That is a horse I've liked, and that is 10-1 right now. Meaning is 11-1 right now off of a 5-1 morning line. Juan Hernandez from Michael McCarthy. Dazzling Dame is 49-1 right now with Luis Saez. I was a little surprised that Saez is riding. I thought that she would have her husband ride, Sheldon Russell, but hey, if that horse wins, then hey, she made a good decision. Baffert's Bottle of Rouge was scratched. Always a runner, 6-1 right now for Chad Brown, Jose Ortiz. Prom Queen 9-1. Brad Cox, train Javier Castellano rides. Ben Colebrook's Percy's Bar, Luan Machado rides. 9-2 favorite so far. Very early wagering. Bella Ballerina 8-1. Tyler Gaffaleone rides for Brendan Walsh. Pashmina, who is Eddie Olczyk's pick, is 24-1. Rob Atras trains. Ramon Vasquez rides. Brooklyn Blonde, 13-1 right now. Kazushi Kimura riding for Michael McCarthy. Kelsey Danner's Lovely Gray, which is the Portnoy horse. Dylan Davis rides. Nikon with Beckman, Jaime Torres. And then you have the 17 Resist, who is on the outside looking in right now, needs one more scratch for her to get into the races. So that is the field right now for the Kentucky Oaks. So, I think when it comes to this, if it's just the fact, and I'm going to stop this for now, and I will say this, and you can disagree with me, feel free to chime in. I will say this to you guys. You want to have your horse peaking at the right time. And when I was talking to Todd Schrupp yesterday, and unfortunately the audio, I messed up the second half of the show. Do you want a horse peaking today, on Saturday for the Derby, or in the case of the Oaks, Friday? Or do you want a horse that may have peaked in the Bluegrass like Further Ado? And some interesting stats with Further Ado coming up. But you have to realize that you want to peak at the right time, and in a way, it sucks that maybe your horse is healthy and you're just seeing something that just isn't right. I think you would rather see a horse. It's a matter of, well, do we want to go there to finish last, or do we want to go there to win? Do we want to go there knowing that there's something wrong with this horse? Or because the thing is, it isn't just about the one big race. It's about well beyond. And we got to see exactly what running towards beyond the Kentucky Derby with Sovereignty's connections last year, because Bill Mott did everything right with Sovereignty. I mean, nothing you can do about the horse spiking a fever right before the Breeders' Cup Classic. I mean, those things happen from time to time. But he had a goal. The ultimate goal for the calendar year was the Breeders' Cup Classic. But a goal along the way was the Travers, because that was a race he never won until last year. So sometimes you have to sit there and say, okay, well, this is the main goal, but what's the end goal here? Because let's say you're one of these outsiders and you're just there just so that you can be in the ambiance of 150,000 people, the roar of the crowd, my old Kentucky home, all that. And you finish 18th in the Derby. In some ways, yeah, it's nice that you got to the Derby, but it's also, but I just think that sometimes you have to look out for the best interests of the horse. And I think what you have to do is you have to realize that maybe we run another day. And that's probably what happened in the Sappy Joseph case because of the fact that, um, sometimes um, you just have that issue. So, but also we have news from in regards to the Kentucky Derby, and we'll go to the Q&A racing site, and you can go to QANDA racing.com. Where is it? There it is. So Silent Tactic has been scratched from the Derby, and Great White draws in from the also eligible list. And I'll show you an updated. I will show you an updated um, post position board there in a second. So as it says here on the Q&A racing site, Silent Tactic, the winner of the Southwest Stakes and runner-up to Renegade in the Arkansas Derby, has been withdrawn from the Derby because of a bruised foot, according to Mark Casse. This scratch allows the 21 Great White, who was the first also eligible, to move into the main body of the field. So they're in, and Mark Casse and the connections there, their horses, and I think this is another case of looking long term more than just one race. And I trust Mark Casse's decision here. He said it's a bruise that he's dealt with for a long time, just not 100% happy about it. It's very slight, but you can't run in the Derby and not be 100%. So we're going to work on, I hope, to try to make the Preakness. So they're hoping to make the next race. So you would think, and you get to give the horse the care that it needs. And I know there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, horse racing bad." All these horses are, like a lot of tracks now, and this is something that's happened more and more. They do have farms that these horses can retire to. Like, for example, Parks has Turning for Home. Now, as you see here, here's some of the things that Silent Tactic has done this year. Owned by John Oxley, is trained by Mark Casse. 2 wins in 4 seconds in 6 starts. All 4 Derby qualifying races came at Oaklawn Park. Finished second to Smarty Jones, won the Southwest, ran second to Class President in the Rebel, and was run up again to Renegade in the Arkansas Derby. So, and Arkansas can be a pretty tough road because a lot of times when you have these races, and I'm going to do that so you can see me there. The one thing is, Arkansas can be a very tough road to the Derby and will really toughen up horses that can survive this 4-race series because of the fact that there is so much money at Oaklawn because they have alternate gaming. They can run, I think it's 1.5 million it was for the Arkansas Derby. So not only are you running for a crap ton of money, you're running for more money at that stage of a 3-year-old season, that much more than all those other tracks that were in the cycle this year. If if you think the horse can handle the track and everything else, and you want to go to Oakland and everything like that, hey, you can go there and pick up a huge check, also get the points. But it's a little bit of everything. So it isn't just, but also you have to remember you got to ship the horse there. You got to, you know, make sure the horse is comfortable, because you don't want to go there and end up empty handed. And that's the same anywhere you're shipping your horse. And also, even if it's your home track and, you want to, if your horse is capable of winning one of these races or multiple races or all four, then you have to make sure your horse can do it. So now with the scratch a silent tactic, what will happen is, as you see there in that statement there, in that sentence there, horses 14 to 20 will move down one position. So let me show you. Let me show you the Q&A banner. So let me show you Q&A's the banner on Q&A Racing, and great job by AJ to share this picture. So this will give you an idea. And there you see, okay, so this is and we're going to be talking about this gate as well. We're also going to talk about the history of the starting gate at Churchill Downs and with the Kentucky Derby in a couple of minutes. So I don't know what year this is from. I'm not going to try to, but it's somewhere between 2021 and 2026, because 2020 was the COVID year and they only had 16 horses, 15 horses in that race. But what you do is you have 1, 2, 3, all the way out to 20, and it's a 20 horse gate. And it also fits a little bit better with where it's positioned at the very top of the stretch, end of the turn. So in a normal race where you have 1 through 20 and that's it, you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 from the our far right all the way to the far left, which would actually be off the screen here. But what they will do is, now in this case, 17, 18, 19, and 20 moved over one spot to our right, which will be their left when they load into the gate. And if you were to look at the program and whoever this 17 horse was when this Derby was run, this horse will be in the program as coming out of post position 16. And that came into play with some of these post position numbers I'm going to show you tonight. So the 17 is the program number, but it's post position 16. Horse number 18 here, that is in post position 17. 19 is in post position 18. 20 is in post position 19. So, and this isn't just something that, well, let me say one thing here. Now, because that 21 horse is also eligible, he will be, from our view, to the left of the 20 in the 20th stall there, which is not shown on this picture. Now, let's say another horse gets scratched. Let's say the 7 gets scratched. From 8 to 21, they'll all move over one to our right, which would actually be their left, and then the 22 would be there. So that's how they do it with the also eligibles. So, so there you see how it would look like about a half, not even a half a second into the race when the gates open. But you're going to see on Saturday evening, when they open the gates, you will see 1 through 12. Then next to him will be 14, and then it'll be 15 to 21 right now. So that 13 is out. So everybody else moves 1. Now, in a perfect world, so when you go to the windows on Friday or Saturday, or you're putting it in online, the one thing I will tell you guys is you want to go by the numbers on the program. And there is the updated post positions. Now, as of right now, so even though Potente is in the 13 hole, emerging market 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, you want to go by these numbers here next to the artwork here, which is the jockey silks that the jockeys are going to wear. That's the important number that you want to see, because if you have a winning ticket with the Puma or Commandment or Litmus Test, whatever it is, that is the number you're going to tell the person on the phone, if they still do wagers over the phone, on the internet, in person with the teller, But if you said, oh, I want the 13, oh, sorry, 13 scratched. What? Well, that's why we're here, so we can give you this information that these horses are scratched. So the 13 is out. So, I may be confusing you a little bit once we get to some of these facts that I have here, but it's, the numbers that we're worried about is what the saddle cloth is going to be when they lead the paddock onto the course, and then who finishes what in about 2 minutes after the gates open. So those are the two things that I'm showing you there. So the other thing I want to show you is a little bit of history about Churchill Downs. And this is something, actually, let's go back to here for a second. Let's go back to me. Now, one thing I did see when I accidentally found this, I found this Sunday night, I think, Monday night. I was just clicking post positions, Kentucky Derby, whatever. They have on this particular article, or at least this PDF file I have that I printed out. And I'm not going to show you the PDF file because I had to update it because it's only good through the 2023 race. So I'm going to show you Excel file, which I think is correct. So if there's anything incorrect on it, blame me. So the one thing I want to show you before that is the history of the starting gate, because little bit interesting here, because before 1930, there was no starting gate at Churchill Downs. And this quick video from Churchill Downs and the Kentucky Derby, actually Kentucky Derby on Facebook, it will tell you a lot about the gate here and some of the history behind it, which I found very interesting. Here we go.
How do horses in the Kentucky Derby know when to start? I mean, just think about it. A horse doesn't know what the word go means, yet somehow they all leave the starting gate within a split second of each other. And the reason why actually reveals one of the most underrated pieces of technology in all of sports. See, before 1930, horses at the Kentucky Derby would simply line up behind a line drawn on the track and wait for the starter's signal, typically the beat of a drum or the drop of a flag to start the race. However, as you might expect, this low-tech method resulted in a lot of false starts and repeated delays. That's why in 1930, Churchill Downs started using a starting gate, which was a simple design that featured 14 stalls and a metal bar across the front that fell away from the horses when the starter pressed his button. However, the following year, Churchill Downs made another change, this time adopting a starting gate with a simple spring-loaded wire system that was triggered when the starter yelled. But this design didn't last long either, and by 1941, Churchill Downs started using the same gate that you'll see this Saturday during the Kentucky Derby. It's called a Hewitt gate, and it works by utilizing electrified magnets to close spring-loaded doors in front of each stall. Then, once every horse is loaded in, and the starter hears a moment of silence, he'll press this button, which cuts the electrical current, disables the magnets holding the doors closed, and allows them to spring open. But the best part is, even though Hewitt gates are traditionally only 14 stalls long, starting in 2020, Churchill Downs commissioned a custom 20-stall gate specifically for their racetrack, resulting in one of the most storied and underappreciated pieces of equipment in all of sports. How do horses in the Kentucky Derby know when to start?
So part of the reason why I'm showing that is the stats that I have are from 1930 to the present. Now, the reason why I say that is because of the gate. And, and also with what you'll see on Saturday, you will see it at the very top of the stretch. And the gate fits perfectly in there. So I want to show you a couple of head-on videos, but don't apply it directly to your forehead. So I want to show you something here as well. And this is the best video I could find for a head-on video with the auxiliary gate because, graphics and HD versus standard definition and stuff like that. So I'm going to show you here. But let me just double check one thing here. So there were so there were 19 horses in that race. I'm just confirming that here. So I'm just quickly scanning this here. Yeah, so I had to be 19 because there were 2 scratches and the 21 got in. Okay, so there was 19 horses in the race. So I just wanted to confirm that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, 19 horses. I just wanted to confirm that for you so that we can talk about this here. So I am going to show you a head-on of the 2019 Kentucky Derby. Now, I do want to show this because the one thing you saw in the when they were talking about the Hewitt gate and stuff like that, the one thing you notice is that that particular video showed the auxiliary gate, and this is the last race that they used an auxiliary gate where you had a gate of 14 horses and then to the side a gate of 6, which is all interconnected electrically and all that like they mentioned, but they didn't have what they have now, which is that 20 horse gate. And this gate that they have that they use now, which we'll see in a couple of minutes, well, he actually saw it on that banner that I showed you, just to give you an idea of different things with that. You have 20, you have a 20 horse gate, which actually takes up less space on the track. And in a way, it will help whoever is in the 1, 2, and 3 hole, because they won't necessarily have to contend with that rail coming at you. Like if you were to run straight out of the gate and you don't even attempt to go inside, you're ending up on the turf course. That's the way it was. Ask the connections of Jazzle, who won the Belmont, because when he ran in the Derby, he got bumped at the start. He hit the rail. I mean, he could have ended up running on the turf course, which actually would have been an advantage, because turf course, that would have only been 1.1 miles the rest of the way. But I'm going to show you this here, and forgive me, I got the Flyers game on as well, which is probably not a good thing for me to watch, because I'm trying to be professional here. I'll probably drop an F-bomb or two. So now what they did with this race here, this is what they did pre-2020. What they began to do, what they would do is, if there was a field of 19, they moved, because the 11 and the 12 were scratched, but the 21 drew in. So the 21 got the far outside gate there. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15 ended up on this side. And then you had 1 through 10 going this way. They left this gate, which would normally be the 1, open. So you don't have you're running into the rail there. You're going to run into the rail. You have less clearance. So even if that 2 horse doesn't go outward towards the 3 and everybody else to his right, the chances of going right into the rail are pretty good. So, and from what we'll see in this race here, just the start of it, the one there on the far inside, because he had been moved over a spot, will have an easier, and he did still have some issues there from what we saw there, but that was back in 2019. And one thing that you'll see that even Todd Trupp mentioned to me, the one thing is with Renegade is you're going to have 19 horses, or however many that are within a couple of lengths of him and whatever. They're all going to be crushing towards the rail, because all these horses that were on the far outside that you see here, they are all trying to get as close to the rail as possible, because you do not want to be you don't want to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 wide. But I mean, you can settle a little bit towards the back, but the problem is when you're that wide, like that horse on the outside here was about 4 or 5 wide going into the turn. So, but the 7 there, who had won the race but was disqualified, he ended up getting the rail, and we all know what happened there. So I'm going to move forward here to 2025. And you will see how this looked last year. Actually, let's go to 24 first. So I think 24 had a scratch in it, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see something here. Just double check this. Okay, so yeah, last year was a full 24 was a full field of 20. Let's see how that video looks here. One second. Oops. So let's share my screen again here, and we'll go to the head-on. And we are on the pan view there. So you can see there with this particular race, even though the one goes out a little bit and then he gets crunched inward. Whoops. Actually, let's do this. You can see there, it's a straighter road right into the rail there, especially if you have a horse that's fast enough to get the lead early in the race. Also, these horses on the far outside, they're not as wide as well, so they don't lose that much ground trying to go from 20 wide here to about 5 or 6 wide. So it's going to benefit the one because they're not looking directly at the rail in terms of the turn, and it's sticking out because the way that the old gate was set up. This actually helps the one, and post positions 15 through 20, you're not as wide as well, which helps them as well. So that gate's going to help the one horse, but it's still going to be a hindrance because guess what? We're going to show the beginning of this race here, and you see that horses are coming over because guess what? They want the rail. They want the closest distance between the start and the finish. And one got bounced around to start there, which, is not ideal for a horse, whether you are the favorite like Renegade this year or a long shot. So you do see that was the 12 horse there, I believe. No, it's a 5. No. Well, whatever that horse was able to get over and got the lead. So that's, about that new game. And, I probably should stop talking about it because it is in its 6th year now. The one is still going to be a not so great position. But I think, in my opinion, it's a little bit better than what the setup was. So you're looking at a lot of this stuff here, and I'm not going to lie, it's still not a great position, but this setup, it helps the outside horses. It also helps the one. Now, one other thing I do want to show you guys, and remember I mentioned that Further Ado will now be in the 17, will be in stall 17. Well, the reason why I say that is because when you look at the stats back to 1930, and Churchill Downs cited the stats from 1930 because of that video I showed you, because they introduced the starting gate in 1930. They have some interesting stats, and I transposed it into this Excel file only just so that I can display this to you guys. So there you go. And we have a typo here, which is going to annoy me, so let me fix that. So here's everything in terms of crunching numbers, which they did most of it. I had to add the last 2 years. I will tell you this. In the 96 times that a gate has been used for the Kentucky Derby, the 5 has been the most advantageous post, both in total wins and in win percentage. The 10, which has been occupied in a gate 89 times, is right up there at 10.11%. So some interesting things that are there, but we haven't seen anybody win there since 2005 when Giacomo had a mad dash to the finish to win at 50-1. And if you notice there, the 17 horse, or the 17 position, which will be occupied by the 18 horse Further Ado, goes into a post that is 0 for 46 since the introduction of a starting gate at Churchill Downs. Now, this was a great question that Todd Schrupp asked me that I wish came over the internet last night. The one thing I said was, or he asked me, if you see a horse, which I think he was leading into Further Ado, and I don't think he knew that this horse was going to be scratched. I'm not saying that. But I will tell you that I will not throw out Further Ado because you see 0 for 46 with 1 win in 2 seconds. I'm not going to throw that horse out just because, oh, by the way, it's the 17 horse. It's the 17 post position. I am not throwing out Further Ado. If I throw out Further Ado, it's because I think that he peaked in the Bluegrass last month or earlier this month, since we're still in April. So I don't think that you can totally toss out. Now, I'm not going to toss out the 1 either, even though a bit of a concern that he's wearing a bar shoe, a 3/4 shoe, or whatever they called it. But the type of if you want to call it an injury, it's the same as a hangnail, basically. And it's just like any other nagging or annoying injury that you would have. You just treat it properly and it'll heal. And sometimes it reacts quickly, sometimes it doesn't. So the one thing you're going to hear that nobody's won from the 1 hole since 1986 with Ferdinand. But they will not tell you, and I'm going to put this in this orange, they're not going to tell you that Affirmed was the last one to win from the 2 position in 1978. Oh, by the way, Affirmed won the Triple Crown that year. They're not going to tell you that Riva Ridge did not win, that the 9 hole, there hasn't been a winner since 1972. They're not going to tell you that Curryback was the last to win from the 14 hole in 1961. Also, they are not going to tell you, because I'll have another one in 2012 from the 19 hole, that he was the only winner in 32 races from the 19 hole. So every race is different, and every race has a different feel. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, for example, wasn't it last year that it was rainy? If I'm not mistaken, 2024 was. Let me go forward here. There we go. So, so they're not going to tell you about that. Now, they might, but you're going to hear, oh, only one horse is won from the 19 post. But the thing is, they've only used that post position 19 times or 32 times. They've only used the 20 hole 19 times, and this will be the 20th opportunity the horse runs at. Now, there were horses that ran in post 21, 22, and 23, but they decided after a year or two running those races that they would limit the field to 20 horses. But, and, the one thing I would say is, yeah, Ferdinand hasn't won since 1986. We agree on, we know all about that because the shortest distance between two spots is a straight line, or in horse racing, it's riding the rail, plain and simple. But I think with what you see here, even with some of the things that you're seeing here, oh, Canonera the second there, the 12 hole hasn't won since 1971. So you're looking at some interesting stuff here. Now, 49er was the last top 3 from the 17 position, which, if you're a believer in these stats, I don't necessarily, like I told Todd last night, I'm not worried about the numbers because what's past is past. It doesn't really affect this horse because I even said it to AJ tonight when we were talking. Being that, that horse doesn't know that he's in a position that was 0 for 46 since 1930. Plain simple. But, it doesn't look good that that nobody's finished in the top 3 since 1988. And nobody's finished in the top 5 or in the money because that's what they pay, top 5, in terms of the owners, since Don't Get Mad in 2005. And it may just be coincidence. It may just be that it's bad luck. But whatever it is, even though, it's these anomalies that come up. Like, for example, the Phillies didn't win a World Series, win a World Championship for 97 years. The Cubs didn't win for 108? Just some weird things that you just shake your head at once. For example, if Further Ado will win this race. But the one thing is, even though that 10 spot hasn't had a winner since 2005, it's interesting that the 10 hole is in the top 3 the most times at 29%. And especially if there's a 20 horse field like this is, they're in the middle of the gate. And you can say and think what you want here, but the one thing I would definitely tell you guys is the numbers are the numbers, plain and simple. But I'm not going to tell you guys don't bet Further Ado just because of the fact that a horse is in a spot that's 0 for 46 or whatever that number was. I pulled it down and I'm reporting something here. So I will say this, and if I'm not, if I'm picking, if I'm not picking Further Ado, which if you heard me last night, if you would have heard me last night, right now I'm not leaning towards Further Ado, and it's not because of the 17 position, because you know the history is the history. So be it. But I'm not going to tell you guys, oh, that position's over for 46. Well, guess what? If you follow me with some of my baseball and football and other picks, sometimes I pick a team that has a 10, 12 game losing streak and be like, why are you doing that? They're due. They're due. So, but just some interesting stats that I fell on, and I thought it'd be a little bit different than having to see video and say, "Oh, I like this horse, I like that horse." Just some quirks that I saw here that was very interesting to me, especially with my analytical mind and things like that. And also, I hope that I did fill in the 24 and 25 positions for last three and top three and top five were correct. So if they're wrong, that's on me. That is in Churchill Downs. So a little bit of a different view there, and I hope it was a little bit informative, and and especially if you're watching on one of the YouTubes, mine or Q&A Sports Zone, leave a comment, especially if it's my YouTube, because I'm hoping that I respond to you guys. So, but tomorrow we'll be live at 4 o'clock. AJ will be running also eligible. It'll be me, Frank the Bank, and also Defo. We're going to be looking at the race, and we may have a guest or two as well. And hopefully, we get you guys a winner for Saturday. Um, I don't know if we're going to do a superfecta or anything like that, but the one thing I said when um, Defo had Kate and Bradar on, and if you go to the Q&A Racing YouTube, you can watch that archive video. Kate and Bradar said the one of the best. It was either Caton or Defo. The one thing I like to do is a trifecta box with 5 horses. And I said, yeah, one of the things that I used to do, I may do it again this year, is a 5 or 6 horse exacta box for $1 and have those there. Because if you do a 6-way box, that's $30, 6 times 5. So, and with so much money that's going to be in the pools, you're going to get a lot more money tomorrow on Saturday than you would on a typical Tuesday race at Parks or Horseshoe Indy or Turf Paradise, wherever. It's just that there's so much money, they have to pay it out. And also, you have all these different combinations. Now, I bet you didn't know this, and this is the last thought I'm going to give you. If you're going to play the Superfecta, unless you're Dave Portnoy or any other multimillionaire, you will not have the funds to play an all, that's 4 alls in the Superfecta. Because if you do, a $1 Superfecta is going to cost you $116,280, because that's the number of combinations you would have in a 20-horse race for the Kentucky Derby. And probably when the Preakness comes around, say, oh, by the way, usually the Superfecta is much less in the Preakness. It's because there's less combinations available. So just all kinds of different things here that I wanted to mention to you guys, and just some quirks and everything like that, because I wanted to do something a little bit different, because everybody's zigging in one direction. I want to zag in the other and give you some weird stats and things like that, because especially even with my Joe Quill show, I'd like to throw in a weird story every once in a while. I'm not going to say the title of it because, this is a much more professional thing than the other one. But there was a weird story that ironically, one of the owners of Further Ado, um, he ended up having a stroke because he was laughing so hard on Younghoe Koo's missed field goal where he planted his foot into the ground, and I don't know how he did it. I don't think he could ever do it again. He laughed so hard, he ended up in a seizure. They found a tumor on his brain. Thankfully, it was benign, and for the most part, he's okay now. He'll be there Churchill Downs this weekend. So, I mean, now that's a story you want to hear. Like, horse had a brain. The one of the owners had a brain tumor and survived. That's that's a type of story you want to hear on Kentucky Derby Day. Kind of like how Smarty Jones had that eye and head injury before, when he was training up to his first race, which got delayed. You know, you got to hear about that story. Well, you'll get to hear about that on Saturday as well, and I'm sure a bunch of other stories that we'll talk about as well. So, but I hope you like this different type of topic with the Kentucky Derby, and I thought it was a little fun, a little bit different, and hopefully you'll join us at 4 o'clock tomorrow. We'll be going 4 to 6 with Also Eligible, and then I will be back at 9 p.m. with my usual Joe Quill show. So, and also I will be live on Saturday at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. talking everything Kentucky Derby as well. So because between now and then, you never know. We could have 3 scratches in the main body, and we could be seeing a 22, 23, and 24 on the track. But that's it for now. I do appreciate everybody watching, both live and also after the fact, because I know that this is going to be on YouTube forever, or until they decide to take it off for whatever reason. But I do appreciate each and every one of you. Check out QandARacing.com. That article will be up in the morning, and hope everybody has a great day. And if we don't see you here between now and Saturday, hoping you get the winning combination of any wager that you have, and hope you have a great day. And even if you don't win, just enjoy the day, because it is a rite of passage for these 3-year-olds, and it's cool that we get to watch it. So on behalf of everybody here at Q&A Racing and Q&A Sports Zone, I'm Joe Quills.